When Senator Elizabeth Warren gave her full endorsement to Zoran Mamdani's 2025 bid for New York City mayor, it instantly grabbed attention. But it was President Donald Trump's blunt and unexpected response that sent shockwaves through the city and across the internet. His words had everyone talking. Thunder rolled over the East River like a drumbeat as lights flickered in the waterfront hall. Cameras flashed, supporters raised signs. Then Senator Warren took the microphone and lifted Mamdani's hand high. "New York," she said, "this is your next mayor. He'll lead the fight to impeach President Donald Trump." The room froze, then erupted. Warren pressed harder, accusing the president of failing the people he swore to serve, urging him to resign and calling him unfit for office. Her tone was cutting. Then came a label no leader should throw without proof. The air tightened. Even some in the crowd looked down at the floor. Mamdani smiled, promising trains that ran on time, rents that stayed fair, and safer streets. "We'll set the standard for the nation," he declared. Phones lit up, live streams spread. Across the city, nurses, cab drivers, barbers, and deli owners listened from kitchens and shops. In Queens, a young mother turned the volume down so her kids wouldn't hear the harshest part. Hand on her chest, she whispered, "Why say it that way?" Outside, rain began to fall, cold and fast. The speech struck the city like a dropped glass, shattering into countless reactions. In a Bronx barbershop, clippers buzzed over silence as the TV replayed Warren's attack. A gray-haired man gripped his chair. "That's not right," he muttered. In Flatbush, a baker paused kneading dough. His eyes watered. "My son wants to be a cop," he told a customer. "Words like that, they sting." In Staten Island, a widow dusted the folded flag of her late husband. She turned off the TV, then back on again. By noon, hashtags were everywhere. The city boiled with opinion, praise, anger, disbelief. Then came a rumor. The president was already in New York. Only a few knew for sure. A bell rang from a nearby church. At 1:14 p.m., push alerts confirmed it. The president would speak at a Staten Island community gym, no motorcade, no grand stage, just folding chairs, neighbors, and quiet anticipation. People looked tired, cautious, hopeful. A red camera light blinked. The doors opened. He entered without music, shook hands, hugged a firefighter's mother, then stood beneath a faded scoreboard. Rain drummed the roof. "I heard what was said," Trump began, steady. "And I heard what was promised." He gestured to the front row. Nurses, small business owners, a transit worker still in his vest. He drew a breath. "Here's who Zoran Mamdani really is," he said. "He appeals to working families while living like the elite. He relies on heavy security while criticizing police for ordinary Americans. He isn't what he claims to be." The room fell silent. Online, the clip spread instantly. Trump then turned to Warren. "Senator Warren once claimed native ancestry," he said carefully. "That wasn't honest. And tonight, she looked unusually hyped, endorsing a far-left candidate. Maybe she should take a drug test. I'm serious." A ripple moved through the crowd. Part gasp, part applause. He paused, eyes damp as they rested on the folded flag. "New York, you deserve safety, affordable rent, reliable trains, leaders who mean what they say." Phones trembled in people's hands. For a moment after his last line, no one moved. Then a woman in the third row clapped through tears. Soon the entire gym rose to its feet. But outside, the story was already racing online. Clips of his remarks flooded every platform. Some cheered, some raged, others just stared, replaying the subtitles. In a newsroom across the East River, a young journalist whispered, "He didn't just respond, he exposed them." Back in the gym, Trump stepped off the stage. He shook hands with a retired bus driver, thanked teachers, and listened to a grocery clerk talk about rent. A small boy tugged at his jacket. "My dad says you're the only one who talks like you mean it." Trump smiled softly. "Tell your dad we'll keep fighting for him." The boy's mother wiped her eyes. Meanwhile, in a midtown hotel, Warren paced. Mamdani scrolled furiously through clips of Trump's remarks, each racking up millions of views. "This isn't just a rebuttal," Mamdani muttered. "He's tearing down our image in real time." Warren forced confidence, saying they'd stick to their message. But she knew better. Trump hadn't just pushed back, he had questioned. Their credibility in plain language working people understood. An aide whispered into his phone in the hall, "We may have underestimated him." Moments later, Mamdani took a call from a donor. The voice was icy. "Fix this fast." Warren's stomach sank. She remembered the sting of being called dishonest before. This felt deeper, harder to spin away. Out in the boroughs, the conversation shifted. Taxi drivers, waitresses, delivery workers, people who rarely agreed, were nodding at the same clips. In Queens, a veteran told his grandson, "That man in the gym, that's who you stand for." In Harlem, a single father washed dishes while watching the replay. "He's not afraid to say it," he said quietly. On Staten Island, the boy who met Trump drew an American flag with a big heart in the corner. By evening, even the apolitical knew the words. The president hadn't just called out Mamdani and Warren, he'd painted hypocrisy in a way people couldn't ignore. Reporters swarmed the hotel, but neither Warren nor Mamdani appeared. Inside the now empty gym, the scoreboard still glowed faintly. A janitor swept the floor, shaking his head with a grin. "He walked in here and shifted the whole city in 15 minutes. By dawn, chaos filled the city's newsrooms. Split screens showed Warren's fiery endorsement against Trump's blunt counterpunch. Producers argued over which should lead. "It's political dynamite," one said, "but raw, very raw." A reporter whispered, "You can't spin what happened in that gym. People felt it." In Brooklyn, a retired nurse named Linda replayed the clip. She had never attended a Trump rally, but his words struck her as sincere. She thought of her late husband, a police officer, and how Mamdani's stance on law enforcement always felt wrong. Hands trembling, she whispered, "It's not politics, it's truth." Across the river, Warren's team drafted a press release, but even they knew it couldn't match the impact of a lived moment. In the hotel, aides scrolled through harsh donor messages. "This isn't bad press," one admitted. "It's collapse." Warren sat silent, replaying Trump's every line in her head. She could almost hear the gym erupt again. Mamdani crossed his arms. "We misjudged his connection to working people," he said. "This isn't about policy. He attacked our character, and it stuck." Outside, reporters crowded the entrance, waiting, but Warren stayed inside. She wasn't ready to face the questions that couldn't be dodged. She told herself she was in control, but in her chest, doubt crept in. By mid-afternoon, New York felt different. In subways, construction sites, and diners, people weren't just debating politics. They were talking about integrity. A Bronx bus driver told his partner, "It's the first time I've heard a politician say it exactly how I see it." In a Queens bodega, two regulars debated Warren's remarks. "She went too far," one said. "You don't throw out accusations without proof." Even in Central Park, elderly couples feeding pigeons discussed the speech. "It wasn't about party," one woman said. "It was about calling out what's wrong." Online, hashtags like Bach Truth in the Gym and Real Talk NYC trended. People shared their own stories, moments they'd felt lied to, times they wished someone had spoken plainly. Trump's words weren't just heard, they were felt. And in the city that never sleeps, That feeling spread fast. At 2:47 p.m., the phone rang in Warren's hotel suite. An aide answered. It was a long-time donor. His voice was sharp. "Elizabeth, this is bigger than bad press. People are turning against you. Hit back now, or we pull funding." Warren forced a smile. No, one could see. "We're handling it," Warren said. But when she ended the call, her hands trembled. For the first time in years, she felt the walls closing in. She glanced at Mamdani, who was scrolling through endless clips of Trump's speech, each racking up millions of views. "You think we can make this disappear?" she asked. He didn't respond. Instead, he turned the screen toward her. A live stream from Staten Island was still running, with ordinary callers praising the president for saying aloud what many already believed. Warren leaned back, mind racing. She had built her career on being untouchable, but in less than a day, the foundation was cracking. By early evening, the city buzzed with debate. In a small diner on 9th Avenue, construction workers argued over plates of meatloaf. "I'm no Trump fan," one said, but he nailed it. "He called out the fake stuff and didn't blink." Another nodded. "That's the thing. He talks to you like a person, not just a voter." In Brooklyn, a taxi driver played Trump's words over the radio. A young passenger pulled out her earbud to listen. "That's the clip everyone's sharing," the driver said. "Makes you think, doesn't it?" Across laundromats, bodegas, and corner stores, the same conversations played out. People weren't just debating politics. They were talking about trust, fairness, and hypocrisy. Online, Trump supporters began organizing small gatherings, framing them as rallies for honesty. Even people who'd never been politically active reposted the clip with captions like, "Finally, someone said it." The mood was different now. It wasn't just about an election. It was about credibility. Back at the hotel, Warren's aides clashed over strategy. "We need to go live now," one insisted. "Deny everything. Redirect the narrative." Mamdani shook his head. "No. If we go live, we look desperate. We need a measured statement tomorrow." The problem was the damage. Wasn't waiting for tomorrow. Polls flashed across TV screens showing Warren's approval in New York plunging overnight. Mamdani's numbers slipped too, while Trump's surprisingly ticked upward. In the middle of it, Warren's phone buzzed with a message from a Senate colleague. "What happened? Yesterday you were untouchable." She didn't reply. She stared at the glowing skyline instead, knowing each light belonged to someone reconsidering everything she had said. Somewhere across town, President Trump was still meeting with New Yorkers, shaking hands in diners, stopping into hardware stores, listening more than he spoke. Warren realized each one of those encounters was another blow to the narrative she had built. By morning, her team could no longer avoid the spotlight. Warren agreed to appear on a national morning show. The studio was bright, the air thick with tension. The host smiled politely, but wasted no time. "Senator, you called the president incompetent and worse. He's now accusing you and Mr. Mamdani of hypocrisy and corruption. How do you respond?" Warren drew a slow breath. "The president is twisting facts to distract from his failures." The host cut in. "But these are his exact words. Watched over 30 million times in less than a day. Are you saying every one of those viewers was misled?" Her lips tightened. She tried steering back to Mamdani's platform, but the host pressed further. "Senator, did you or did you not claim Native American ancestry without proof?" The silence was heavy. Cameras zoomed in. She swallowed. "That's not relevant here." Across America, people saw something rare. Elizabeth Warren cornered. Within minutes, the clip was online. It wasn't just her hesitation. It was the way her eyes shifted when pressed. In kitchens and cafes, people who had been unsure about Trump's remarks now nodded. She couldn't even answer straight. a retired firefighter told his wife. In a Bronx cafe, a group of young men replayed the video. "This isn't even about politics anymore," one said. "She looks like she's hiding something." Trump's team didn't need to respond. Supporters flooded social media with side-by-side videos, Warren's shaky interview next to Trump's steady gym speech. Hashtags like "No Answer Warren" trended alongside "Truth in the Gym." In his campaign office, Mamdani slammed his phone down. "She made us look worse," he muttered. His aides avoided his eyes. By noon, even neutral outlets were saying it. Momentum had shifted, and it wasn't coming back. While Warren's camp scrambled, Trump was in Queens, walking without a podium or teleprompters, simply greeting people. A small business owner pulled him aside. "Mr. President, I don't agree with you on everything, but yesterday you spoke for people like me. You called out the fakes." Trump placed a hand on his shoulder. "I'm here to fight for you. Not for the elites, not for headlines. For you." A little girl ran up with her mother, holding a crumpled drawing of the president with an American flag. "I made this," she said shyly. Trump knelt, smiled, and accepted it. "This means more to me than anything in Washington." Cameras caught the moment, but it didn't look staged. It was raw and genuine. Back in her hotel suite, Warren watched the footage on mute. The image of Trump smiling with that child hit harder than any poll. She knew this wasn't just a messaging problem. It was worse. America was beginning to believe he was the one telling the truth. By midday, the city's mood had shifted from quiet debates to open confrontation. Outside City Hall, two groups gathered, one waving signs for Mamdani, the other carrying banners reading "Truth over Politics." News crews swarmed. A reporter asked a woman in a work uniform why she was there. She didn't hesitate. "Because I'm tired of leaders lying to us. What the president said yesterday, finally, someone had the courage." Across the street, a Mamdani supporter shouted back, "It's all political theater." But the woman's voice cut through. Then why couldn't Warren answer a simple question on live TV? Clips of the exchange hit social media instantly. This wasn't staged debate. It was real New Yorkers speaking plainly. In her hotel room, Warren watched the footage, fists clenched. She could feel the ground shifting. Every hour she failed to regain control, more people chose Trump's narrative over hers. The crowd outside City Hall was swelling. Inside the campaign suite, the mood was bleak. Mamdani paced, phone in hand, while aides whispered. "This is spiraling," he snapped. "Every time we counter, another clip goes viral, making us look like frauds." An aide stepped forward with fresh polling. "Mr. Mamdani, your approval in the Bronx just dropped 10 points in 24 hours. Senator, yours is down statewide." The room went silent. Warren finally spoke. "Then we hit back harder. A press conference today. We call Trump out directly." "But," one advisor shook his head, "if you go live now, every question will be about your past, not your policies. And he's ready. He's waiting." Mamdani slammed the table. "So what? Do nothing." The advisor didn't reply. Everyone knew the truth. Sometimes doing nothing was worse than stepping into the fire. And right now, the fire was already at the door. Meanwhile, Trump visited a Bronx community center. No lights, no grand stage, just folding chairs and neighbors who had come straight from work. A single mother explained her fears about crime in her neighborhood. Trump listened, nodded, asked questions, even took notes. Then, before a small local camera crew, he said, "I know some in this city feel forgotten. I came here today to tell you, you are not forgotten. Not by me. Not by the America we believe in." The applause was small but heartfelt. Someone in the back filmed it on their phone. Within hours, the video was online beside Warren's awkward interview. The contrast was striking. One leader connecting with people, the other dodging. In living rooms across New York, hearts and minds were shifting. By late afternoon, Warren's team gave in. A press conference was set at the hotel ballroom. Reporters packed the space, cameras lined the back, lights blazing. Warren stood behind the curtain, palms damp. Beside her, Mamani scrolled. "The crowd outside is bigger than expected," he muttered. "Half of them are protesters." Her communications director leaned in and whispered, "Stay calm, speak firmly, don't get pulled into details." But Warren already sensed the real risk wasn't in the questions themselves. It was in how her answers would come across. "The lobby," reporters murmured. They'd seen the viral clips. They'd watched Trump's Bronx stop earlier in the day. The appetite for drama was obvious. With a signal from her director, Warren stepped into the glare of cameras. Shutters clicked, like a drumbeat. Across the city, Trump's aides were watching live. One muttered, "She's walking into a trap." Trump didn't look away from the screen. "Good," he replied. The first reporter wasted no time. "Senator Warren, you've accused President Trump of incompetence, even criminal conduct. Do you have evidence to support those charges?" Warren forced a smile. "The evidence is in his record. His failures are obvious." The reporter cut in. "That's not evidence. Can you cite proof for the specific claims you've made?" The air shifted. Cameras zoomed closer. Warren's pause was just long enough to be noticed. Another reporter followed up. "And what about the president's statement that Mr. Manny lives in luxury while attacking the police? Do you deny he benefits from taxpayer-funded protection?" Mamdani adjusted his tie, avoiding her eyes. Warren tried to pivot. "This is about New York's future, not personal attacks." But the line fell flat online. The live chat scrolled with comments. "She's dodging again." It was exactly the trap Trump had set. By the third exchange, Warren's voice had lost its force. She was defending herself rather than leading the discussion, and the audience could feel it. Then came the moment that stuck. "Senator, reporter asked, the president called you dishonest and cited past controversies about your background. Would you agree to take a drug test, as he suggested, to prove your fitness for office?" The room froze. Warren's jaw tightened. "That's absurd," she snapped. "I won't dignify that with an answer." But the damage was immediate. Within minutes, the clip of her refusal spread on social media, paired with Trump's original demand. Side by side, the image was harsh, a confident accusation against a defensive retort. In diners, barber shops, and subway cars, people replayed it on their phones. Some laughed, others shook their heads. Many simply muttered, "She's finished." Trump, meanwhile, carried on with his schedule, meeting veterans, shaking hands in a bakery, smiling for local cameras, never once mentioning Warren's press conference. He didn't need to. The public conversation was already running in his favor. The next morning, Mamani's office issued a cautious statement. It praised Warren's commitment to justice, but carefully avoided repeating her attacks on Trump. In politics, it was the equivalent of edging away from the flames. On talk radio, a caller voiced what many suspected. He's distancing himself. He sees the fallout. In her suite, Warren read the statement twice, her stomach sinking. "So now you won't stand with me?" she asked Mamani. "This isn't about fear," he said evenly. "It's about strategy. If this spirals, we can't both go down." The silence that followed said more than his words. He believed she was already sinking. Meanwhile, Trump was in Staten Island with sanitation workers. Cameras caught him laughing with them, rolling up his sleeves, sipping coffee from a paper cup. Local news broadcast the images widely. Without saying a word about Warren or Mamdani, he was already winning the day. By midday, a new viral video was everywhere. A split screen. Trump in a break room, listening carefully as a worker explained rising costs, next to Warren, irritated, sidestepping a pointed question. The caption read, "Who's really for the people?" It spread fast, even neutral. Anchors admitted the optics were devastating. "One looks engaged," one said. "The other looks cornered." In neighborhoods across the city, people shared the clip. A clerk in Queens played it for a customer and said, "I'm not political, but that's night and day." Back in the hotel, Warren's aides scrambled to push out their own footage, but nothing caught on. The contrast was too sharp. In a quiet corridor, one senior aide whispered, "We might be watching her career collapse in real time." Late that night, Warren's private phone rang. An unfamiliar number. Against her instincts, she answered. "Elizabeth, this is a Senate colleague. I'll give you advice you won't want. Stop talking about Trump. Every word strengthens him." She gripped the phone. "If I stop, it looks like I'm backing down." The voice sighed. "Sometimes the only way to survive is to step out of the fight before you're knocked out." She hung up without replying, but the warning echoed. For the first time, the pressure felt personal. Across town, Trump ended his night at a veteran-owned diner. He signed menus, shook hands, left a generous tip. The owner later posted a photo of the signed menu with the caption, "He didn't come for cameras, he came for us." By midnight, it had more shares than any campaign ad. The morning headlines were merciless. Every outlet replayed the split-screen video and the diner photo. Warren on defense as Trump gains ground in New York. At a midtown coffee shop, two strangers discussed the footage. "Notice how he just talks to people like neighbors," one said. "No script, no handlers." Meanwhile, Warren's operation unraveled. Donors quietly pulled support. A longtime backer called to say, "I can't go down with this." Mamani's aides openly discussed salvaging their future without her. What had been launched as a strong partnership now looked like a burden. Trump, on the other hand, attended a small prayer breakfast. Cameras caught him bowing his head with veterans and clergy. No speeches, no politics, just quiet moments. By noon, those images dominated online feeds. Even critics conceded they seemed authentic. For Warren, it felt like the city itself was slipping away. A local news crew hit the streets of New York to hear what people thought about the Warren-Mamani-Trump controversy. In the Bronx, a single father spoke without pause. "I don't agree with everything Trump says, but at least he's direct. She just sidesteps." In Queens, a retired teacher shook her head. She called him awful names, and now she's the one dodging questions. That's not leadership. One clip spread quickly online. A young deli worker in Brooklyn declared, "If you can't be honest under pressure, you don't deserve the microphone." The segment played on repeat across networks. At Trump's campaign office, there was no celebration. None was needed. The public was speaking for them. Warren, meanwhile, sat in her suite, feeling the city shift against her, voice by voice. Her phone buzzed with a message from Mamani. "We need to talk about the future of this campaign." The phrasing said it all. He was already picturing a future without her. That evening, an anonymous source leaked internal campaign emails. They revealed Mamani's team had been planning to create distance from Warren days before she even realized. News. Outlets jumped on it. "Mamani splitting from Warren?" one headline asked. Social media responded with a clear yes. Warren confronted him in a tense private call. "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me?" she demanded. His reply was cold. "Politics is survival, Senator. You taught me that." Meanwhile, Trump was back on Staten Island, attending a community fundraiser for a family who had lost their home in a fire. He donated quietly and left before the speeches. The family later shared it on Facebook, and by morning the story had gone viral. The contrast was stark. Warren's collapsing alliances against Trump's steady presence among everyday people, and public opinion was forming quickly. 2 days later, Trump held a small but packed rally in Queens. No booming music, no giant banners, just a stage, a microphone, and rows of folding chairs filled with New Yorkers. He spoke plainly, without notes. "They've said plenty about me this week. They've tried to tell you who to trust. But I'm here to tell you, only you get to decide that. Not the media, not the politicians, and certainly not those living in luxury while pretending to know your struggles." The crowd erupted. Homemade. Signs waved, "We stand with truth and NYC deserves better." In the front row sat the same young boy who had drawn him a flag earlier that week. Trump noticed him, smiled, and said into the mic, "That's why I fight. So that little guy grows up in a country built on honesty." At that point, it wasn't about politics anymore. It was personal. That same night, Warren appeared on a live-streamed panel trying to regain control, but the questions came sharp and fast. One host asked bluntly, "Senator, can you name a single major achievement in your career that wasn't tied to controversy or accusations of dishonesty?" She froze. Cameras caught her swallowing hard. "This isn't about me," she began, but the host cut her off. "Right now, it is about you." The comment section lit up. Viewers compared her defensive tone to Trump's confident rally just hours earlier. Halfway through, her voice cracked. For a moment, it looked like she might walk off set. When the broadcast ended, her phone flooded, not with support, but with messages from allies quietly pulling away. By morning, analysts were calling it the end of her political relevance. Taosi. The final day of that whirlwind week, Trump visited a small American Legion hall. No fanfare, just veterans, families, and a handful of reporters. He shook every hand, listened to every story, and before leaving, spoke briefly. "Leaders should never lie to you. They should never hide from you. And if they do, your duty as Americans is to replace them with those who fight for you, not themselves. That's what we're doing together." The applause was long and heartfelt. Some veterans wiped away tears. Outside, people gathered to thank him, not for a speech, but for showing up when it counted. Warren, watching from a distance, knew it was over. Trump hadn't needed to attack her directly. Truth and connection had done the work. And across New York, homes, shops, and streets, the people had already decided. My friends, if you believe in keeping truth alive, hit that like button now. Share your thoughts in the comments. I read them all. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the stories others don't want you to hear. Join our membership today for exclusive behind-the-scenes content. Together, let's keep fighting for honesty.